Hello, this is Carol Lundeen. I'm Lilian's gardener and she asked me to give you a little tour. This is Labor Day weekend 2021. Let's have a look. Let's start with these roses that are right out front. Even though it's Labor Day, they've been blooming since early spring. And if we stop for a moment and take a deep breath, can't you just smell that sweet fragrance? And here's the front of Lilian's home. Over here on the left side, it's anchored by 3 major trees and shrubs. The big one is an old hemlock tree, and at its base is a multi-stemmed dogwood, which gives an umbrella effect. And at the base there, in dark green, is a taxus or yew bush. It has nice glossy green leaves. It's an evergreen, and it helps to anchor the space. The rest is quite shady, so we have a newly installed hydrangea paniculata. The designer Cheryl Salatino put that in a few weeks ago. We have a new holly just to its left, also nice and glossy, and in the front we have rhodies and a row of privet along the neighbor's fence. Here are the roses we had a look at. Earlier in the season, the canes of the roses were drooping all the way down this retaining wall and covering the path here. It was quite stunning. And here's the front entrance with our containers going up and down. We have drip irrigation lines, 1/4-inch lines, helping everything stay fit. We have a maple, and to its left we have a mirroring evergreen, which also has nice dark green glossy needles. This one is a cephalotaxis. I love the vase shape of it. We have a sea of myrtle that blooms blue in the spring, and we have lots of bulbs, mostly tulips, coming up over time. Here we can see the container, the main container in the background there, up against the foundation. Here we have another corner with roses, which is also in summer drooping over like a wave. And here's that container. We'll pause here for a closer look. You can see the wind by the breeze in the switchgrass seed heads, which is always lovely in a container. For bright colors, we can always depend on annuals. These are celosia, the pink and the orange. Zooming in a bit, we have the caladium, elephant's ears. I love the pink and green contrast on the leaves. We also have, as a skirt or base, we have a vine, often called sweet potato vine. It's a relative of the morning glory. The other part of the skirt is white calibrachoa right here. For contrast, color contrast, we have blue lobelia, which does great in full sun. And as we pull back, we get the overall look, and we get the overall look, and it seems to work quite well. Zooming back again, we get the overall look, and Lilian seems to like the combination quite well. And let's go see what's inside the gate. Wow. This is how it looks in September. Imagine how it looks in spring and summer and winter. There's a lot of winter interest here that Cheryl has put in place. For color this year, we added red coleus, and I have to say that on the right here, this hosta that's blooming so late, I would say that it is even sweeter smelling than the roses out front. It's incredible. Here's a look at the flowers. Beautiful. As we head down the path, we have more late blooming hostas. Of course, there are earlier ones too. Over here, we're anchoring the foundation with anemones. That is a Japanese anemone. It's a kind of a colonizing perennial. Here we have another anemone, and right beside it, we have a wonderful native plant. This is an Actea. It's very late blooming, and these purple flower spikes will turn to ivory, and this is quite a magnet for native bees. I love the foliage too. these nice big leaves. Going on, we have a few containers here. Oh, and one of the best parts Lilian has put in is a seating area, which is nice and shady, which is a big benefit in summer. We have hostas. We have this beautyberry plant right here, which is, its berries are still green, but in a few weeks these will be a brilliant purple shiny color, and it's very striking. It'll contrast well with these coleus here. These containers are our entryway to the next part of the garden. And here we have an azalea which was existing before Cheryl came in to do a redesign. She has added this. This is another taxus. It's very tall, and it's perfect for this very narrow space. In the front here we have Actea virginiana, which is a great native shrub. It blooms, you can see the remains of the flowers that come on a long spike in the spring. It blooms in ivory, is extremely fragrant. It's another great native plant for our native pollinators. Here we have a nice couple, we have three nice glossy hollies that do a great job with contrast and color. We have our berries. This must be a female plant. You can see all the berries here. This one to the left is probably a male that pollinates it. Continuing on the right, we have the azalea, and then we have a beautiful dogwood that has variegated leaves, and that's, I would say that's one of the big anchors in the backyard here. Here's the third holly, also oozing with berries. And there are many birds here. There are blue jays and robins, and I might have heard a wren the other day. On the corner we have a viburnum. There are three of them in a kind of a flattened triangle. They do a great job of giving the sense of depth in this still very narrow space. Back to the other side, we have the edge of the dogwood. We have more anemones, Japanese anemones. They're one of the common names is windflower, and you can see they move in the breeze. In the corner, I believe that's a styrax, which is incredible flowers in the spring. They're little balls of color. We have a daphne. We have another evergreen anchoring the back. And we turn to this very sunny patio. So this is the area that gets the most sun. Right here to the right of the holly we have an enkianthus, which is also beautiful flowers that droop down. This year we're doing an experiment with putting in long blooming annuals that tolerate sun and shade. So you can see the pinks and the whites and the red annuals are filling in there. Here we have a viburnum. I love the form of this. It's very kind of open form. And oh my goodness, it looks like the birds have already come and got most of the berries. You can see here a couple of blue fruits left, but mostly they're gone. And I would say this is a wonderful plant for attracting birds to the garden. Over here, as a transition point, we have a really big hydrangea, and across the path from it we have a witch hazel that blooms in early spring. Fantastic plant for early pollinators. We have a rose of Sharon that's pink, nice and tall, that blends into the apple tree there. And then lower down we have a tall rudbeckia that's over my head, so it's almost 6 feet tall. And this, in the spring, this is the part that shines right here. These are the peonies, the peony patch you could call it. Lilian is a very big fan of the peonies. To finish out this section we have two sets of vines going up. One of them is the passion flower, which Lilian had in Jerusalem at her apartment, and we have actually one of those on the left and the right, and intertwined with this one is a clematis. Also, you could call it a clematis too. Over here we have two very early spring blooming fothergilla, and the big pink plate-size flowers Lilian was talking about are this hibiscus, which here we are at Labor Day. They're pretty short for the season, but you can get a sense of the size that this flower had when it was wide open. It was beautiful. One thing that Lilian has been interested in this year is these are some columbines that you really interact with these when you go down the path because your feet kick into them. And we've decided to let the columbines seed around, so we have this really big patch of columbine babies that are doing quite well. And we'll spread them around probably in the spring as best we can. Columbines don't always like to be moved, but we'll do our best. Going around the corner, we have a mirroring narrow border that goes back to the front fence. And over here we have St. John's wort, which is super important for native bees. We have more peonies. We have a splaying out iris. We have hostas here on the left. We have epimedium, which is a great plant for really dry conditions, dry shade, in fact. This part of the garden is interesting because part of it gets quite a lot of sun and quite hot, and others is really quite shady and cool. We're experimenting here with Filipendula, which is a tall, spiky plant. It's a native plant. It blooms in pinks and whites. It does spread around quite a bit, so we'll have to keep an eye on it over the years. And to anchor this part of the garden, we have a rose of Sharon at the end, which is still blooming. So that's lovely. Okay, Lilian, it's quite a pleasure to garden in your garden. I really love helping you keeping it fit. So thank you very much. Bye-bye.